Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Am I on a wonk? Am I a bit wonky? Possibly, but we're gonna go with, I think we are, I don't really know what to do about that, so we're just gonna carry on anyway. Today we're gonna be answering questions from parents of disabled children. Um, I get quite a lot of DMs a lot of the time. Can't answer all of them, or sometimes I put out question boxes and a lot of parents get in touch. So I thought this was a good way to answer questions that are a little bit too long for like Instagram stories. And also it's a way for if any parents of disabled children happen to stumble on this video, then I hope this helps. So I'm going to get straight into it. So the first question I'm actually going to read out because it was a long one and I want to make sure I get it right. But it was basically, let's have a look. Um, so it was from someone who follows me on Instagram and they've followed me for a long time. And they were saying basically that they went on holiday to Scotland. I'm just gonna like paraphrase it. Um, Miles from anywhere. We go every year, and it's such a lovely escape. Since following your account, I'm much more aware of places in the world that are hugely inaccessible to wheelchair users specifically, but also many disabilities, many of hidden disabilities. My mind being my mind started thinking, what if you lived here and had an accident or had a child born with a disability? You'd have to move, you wouldn't be able to live where you live. Made me really sad because it's such a beautiful part of the world. It also made me feel privileged for being able to go. Do you get frustrated slash angry? Or any thoughts on this? Are there lots of places you wish you could go? And then being like, hope you don't mind me asking this. I really don't mind you asking that, and that's a really interesting question. I think my brain, anytime I get questions like that, it's really difficult to be frustrated about the things that you aren't aware of. So if something isn't accessible, I actually don't know what I'm missing out on. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Second of all, though, that's not to say that it's not a problem, because of course we need to be able to make sure people can experience everything, and just because you don't know what you're missing out on doesn't mean you should miss out on it. Um, all to give you some context, all my life I've never really been a nature person. Um, I'm just not like my parents were always made sure that my brother had experiences where, they would offer to do roller coaster rides and go out walking and stuff like that. And we actually have never been that kind of family. It just so happens that it suits me because I don't do it. But yeah, they've always given my brother those opportunities and he's just not been interested either. He's quite he's a homebody. He loves chilling at home and stuff like that. So I guess that's the first thing is that I've just never really been that person. But there are obviously loads of disabled people that love the outdoors and that would feel completely different and would feel like society is a complete barrier and it's not fair that, this world that's free, well, apart from getting there and all that, technically, free to roam around and look around is so inaccessible because of the way that we've made things like transport and, you know, structures and stuff like that. Um, there was a turning point though where when I went to North Yorkshire with Jenny, really good life, we managed, like, we rented a car and she drove us. She's a wheelchair user. She drove us to like country roads and cliff tops and stuff like that. And we got out of the car to take a picture in the sunset. And I finally learned what breathtaking actually means. Like, we got out of the car and I looked, around, and I just saw proper scenery, like in the programs where people are like, wow, and I never really, I used to think like, yes, like a bit of grass and some mountains, but when you see the pure scale of what you're looking at and how large it is, and like no one's there, it looks like it's all empty and it's just you. I suddenly realised what it was all about, like what scenery is and what greenery is. And it did, it got me. I was just like, I've got a picture, I'll try and put it on the screen here. And it was just that moment where the sun was setting, and it was just a moment where I was like, this is what it is. So I guess I hope that helps in terms of it's not a problem that I think about all the time, but I think that's a problem in itself that we don't know what we're missing out on. Therefore, people can't shout out about these issues. So that's why we need non disabled people and allies to help us out, because we're not going to see what the issues are if we can't get to them. So, yeah, and I think if things were more accessible, like going to Scotland, going on accessible hikes, which I know there's probably going to be people who are like, there's this available, there's this, don't forget this. Like, there are things out there, but when you're disabled, it's always down to you to do the research, find out what's available. It's very rarely readily available for disabled people. So I guess with so much every disabled person's got so much going on in their life, one way or another. Yeah, it's just the priority level is so different for everyone. So that's how I would answer that question. It's quite a long um, waffle, really. But I hope that kind of helps. And I think to summarize, it's really helpful when you do think about people like me and loads of us who should access places. And, if you have those conversations with people that do have the power to make decisions, then amazing. Because, wouldn't it be amazing if we could all access things that are good for our mind, for our health? So, yeah, thank you for asking that question though. It's really interesting. And yeah, it's cool to have a think about that myself. So the next question was from a mum who was asking about periods and what it's like navigating periods as a wheelchair user. She had a daughter that will be navigating that at some point, and I know a lot of people that follow me online, either menstruate and are wheelchair users. So hopefully this will help as well. Um, so I guess the first thing I would say to anyone who's just starting out or who's supporting someone who started the periods is that menstruating when you're a wheelchair user is a pain in the ass. It really is. I think if you're not able to stand, it's another level, because you imagine like having to sit in it isn't great. However, you deal with it. Cramps when you've got chronic pain already isn't ideal. So when you're on your period, before the week before is hard for me because I get extra pains and all my pain is heightened. So actually, when I've come on my period, it's almost a sense of relief because my body feels like it's actually, doing what it needs to do. Um, and managing periods has always been difficult. I started when I was in high school and I got a lot of assistance from carers. And it's just not, I can do a whole other video on this, but it's really hard to navigate even the conversation with, not strangers, but people you don't know really, really well. It's already hard doing toilet hygiene, but adding your period to it as well is just another level. I've been blessed with genetics of quite heavy periods as well, thanks family. Which has been tough. I took after, like, I'd say a few months, and it was just so heavy, and I was at school, and I was having to change my uniform and stuff like that, like, in the middle of the day. I went on contraception, the mini pill, for about 10 years, and then I was warned about, the, in quotes, dangers of being on contraception and doing that, because I know there might be disabled people watching that don't have a choice and they're still on contraception. And honestly, I'm not a scientist, I don't know. But I guess I was just following what the doctors said. Um, but actually, for me, when I stopped the contraception, I found that I lost a little bit of weight and I was definitely happier in myself. Not to do with the weight, just I realised when I came off that I was actually quite depressed, and I didn't link those two things together until I'd come off the pill. And I just felt when I was on the pill, I felt really like irritable and and not to be helped. It was just purely hormonal. So personally, I'm really glad that I had that rest to figure out my body, and now my periods are really regular. I know my body so well. I know when it's coming down to the day because I've got the Flow app. Not a spon, lol. I just really like that app. So yeah, I feel definitely more hormonally myself at the moment. And it was the best thing I did. And then managing my periods has just been a real trial and error, really. But I have to say, I said it on Instagram, Wooker period pants, life saving. Like, getting the heaviest ones for when you're in bed is amazing. Because I think the hardest thing, as I said, is because you can't stand, it's like I shuffle transfer, and imagine you're constantly sat on something. So when you're on your period, it can get messy. So Walker heavy period pants, really, really good. Can't recommend them enough. Um, and then so I wear them on a night. I wear Marks and Spencer's period pants in the day, and I will put a pad in if it's super heavy and I just feel like I need that extra protection. Um, and then finally, my mum very kindly and amazingly made me this. It's almost like a chair cover, with period, like, I don't know what's the same material as period pants, but it's just lining and then a towel, and it's amazing. It just gives me that safety that when I'm shuffling, to and from my chair, I've got that safety. It's black. It's really like you can't see it in my chair, and it's so good for the times where I am super heavy. I might be working, traveling, driving, whatever, and life goes on. You've still got to work. So for those days where I've got to do that, it's just that extra protection. So I would definitely, if you've got any seamstresses in the family, I'll see if I can find out the fabric. Mum, if you're watching this, I've already asked you. But anything like that is, even if it's just a thick towel for now, a hand towel that's black that matches your chair, I would recommend that just so that you can relax a little bit, because as we know, it's very hard to wash and change your covers if you've only got one for your chair. So yeah, I hope that helps, but just, I guess I could do, like I say, I might actually do a whole video, but just navigating that as someone who has non-disabled parents. So obviously they're amazing at supporting me, but it's like navigating it together, and even just like having that open conversation. Obviously, not all parents have that, but I'm really lucky that I have that. So yeah, just be mindful that when you're a teenager, if you do start when you're a teenager, it's really awkward, it's really embarrassing. It shouldn't be embarrassing, but it is. And yeah, just keep that in mind and be kind to yourself if you are the person that's menstruating, because we all need a bit of love and care from everyone and ourselves in that time. But yeah, I said online we should have an Olympic gold medal for going through it as a wheelchair user, and I'm not kidding. So take that medal. And then the last question, I've got 2 bars on my battery, so I'm going to make this the last question, was from a mum. I'm not going to say who they are, but I'll just give you the summary of what they asked, which was they have a child who's 3 years old and they have a hearing aid, and they're really struggling with non-disabled parents around them, pitying their child, saying things like, oh, bless them, and, giving unsolicited advice. And the parent was basically saying how now it's the school holidays, they're realizing that the tolerance had just about, gone and they've had enough and they were ready to just have the school holidays and just kind of asked advice from me. They also said about how they were worried about the social interactions between their child and the child's friends and noticing that, they're not always socially included. And do I have any advice about that? And luckily, as I just happened to see it and I was with my mum and I read out the question and we basically just answered the question together, which I thought was super nice. And it's really nice for me to listen to my mum and my mum to listen to me and realise that my mum did a great job. Thanks, mum and dad. Um, and I just thought I would reiterate the answers because it might be helpful to other parents as well. The first one was that it's super valid to be annoyed at other people for pitying your child can be really annoying. You see your child as your child, their personality, that they're not to be pitied. Everyone says, oh, bless to little kids, but it's that that it's a different kind of "oh, bless," and people might around you say, "Oh, they don't mean it like that," but you just know. So that's the first thing is, it is valid. You are noticing what you notice, and no one can tell you any differently. My mum also said, and I agree with her, you've got to pick your battles. So she basically said, some people are worth educating and some people aren't. So if you know that there are good people around you that might have just said something, but they've never met anybody like your child, they might say something out of turn or, what is it? Slip of the tongue. I can say flip of the tongue. Slip of the tongue, and some people are worth just saying, "Oh, you don't need to feel sorry for blah." Like they're really happy, they're really good. Just treat them as you would. Or my mum said another way is to just educate them on the disability if you have the energy, because when they know more about the disability, they're more likely to not pity or be curious about something that they don't know. So yeah, educating people on the disability itself and how to communicate around them is a really good way to do it. But, and this is a big but, is you don't have to educate everyone. She said it's really easy at the beginning. And to be honest, I still feel this, that you want to tell everyone everything and, don't react like that and, you know, don't do this and blah, blah, blah. But actually, it's so energy draining that you can only do so much. So save your good energy for the good people, and you'll find that naturally you'll start to care less about everyone else. And I just thought that was really good advice, and I still try and do that. I'm not always good at it, but I'm trying. And it's okay to pick your battles, as she said, um, because your child will eventually learn that as well, and they will guide you about who is good to stick around and who isn't. And then finally, around socializing and disability, this person in particular, I couldn't relate to their disability. So I am not a deaf person, which I think is important to know. But when I was young, I definitely had times, Mum said in particular, where my friends' houses weren't accessible. So when friends had parties, birthday parties, or just after school going round for dinner, obviously there were times where I couldn't go, or there'd be conversations between the mums about what they were going to do to make sure that I could go. And Mum said a really good way of navigating that for her was to create the party. No wonder I'm a party animal now, because she instilled that in me. So yeah, that's a really good way. You're setting the environment. You know, you can set the ground rules of what communication that is. So, I don't know. I'm probably being really stereotypical here, but could you do some sign songs at the party, or just making whatever your normal is fun for that social interaction? Kids are so unjudgmental. Like, all my friends at school, firstly, they wanted a wheelchair. The boys would always be like, I've got one of these at home. And Mum would be like, oh, have you? Like, knowing that they haven't. But yeah, kids are so open-minded. So it's really important to, I guess, start with the parents so that that doesn't filter down. And yeah, just making fun environments. Um, and asking the parents to get involved so it's not just you all the time taking all that on. But I do know that my parents, did a lot to make sure that I was included, and I'm very grateful for that because I think it set the tone that I was expected at social events. I was part of it, and that was because they made sure I was. So, yeah, and there might have been some times where, like, I wouldn't do this now, but I might have been lifted into a house. Obviously, I was a lot more portable and a little small Polly Pocket, so it was much easier. But yes, my camera's about to die, so it might go off, but I hope that helped. These are just a few of our thoughts, all combined into one video. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, like the video, join my Patreon for extra content to support my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!